In high school, the black kids used to point to my skin and call me yellow. Well, actually, some of them just used to call me pee-pee, as if they needed to highlight that my acceptance could only be found through their discharge, while the white kids, they were quick to remind me that they were definitely blacker than I was because they had tans. And it's no wonder why I ditched fifth period for 4 years, trying to find my history in 3 letters, BET, to fit this over-exaggerated rendition of how one fair-skinned black man should act. I was called Casper the Ghost on more than one lunch session, tears streaming down my eyes while begging my mom to buy me some cool clothes, just so I could make an appearance at the black table, which ended up with me walking out the house in FUBU shorts and a Hollister t-shirt. And my friends wonder why I never want to show them any old photos. Maybe it's because my picture never fit the right frame of reference, or moms should never be allowed to choose school clothes. I'm still confused. But at least I got love and acceptance from white girls who wanted to experiment with a black man but didn't want to go all the way. I'm from Oceanside, California, where kids who graduate high school become beach bums, and kids who graduate high school work at the mall serving Cinnabons, so I went to college. And my first year of college really wasn't any different. I was so consumed with finding myself, I became something of a narcissist. And my friend Jeff used to always tease me for spending so much time in the bathroom mirror. But I bet he wouldn't tease me if he knew I was just searching for my reflection. We probably all look for answers to this dilemma from people and parents who have told us things like, if you want to find your identity, you need to open up your Bible, talk to your creator, read self-help books, or travel the world with the last $20 that you have in your bank account. But it wasn't until I started writing that my poetry coach told me that, Michael, you need to learn how to bleed on paper, because how could you learn to be honest with God if you can't even be honest about your process? And I've come to the conclusion that the bleeding is easy. It's just figuring out if I have it within me to cut myself. Now that's the problem. Plus the sight of my own blood makes me sick, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the positive or negative type. Like, trying to find my identity is okay, but when did I learn how to compromise? To fill in the bubble marked other instead of the bubble marked black, just to fit someone else's standardized test. To turn down my music to accommodate 70% of white suburban kids who buy rap music. To exchange my dap for a handshake because I was too afraid to feel the clenched fists that characterize black unity. Afraid to bring my friends to my home church because hand clapping and voice raising isn't the same as acoustic guitars and whisper praises. It's no wonder why I've never been afraid of death. I've lived so many other people's lives. Nobody ever told me that when you compromise, you exchange pieces of your existence for letters on your tombstone. And so now, my cousin asked, how do you start a war? And I said, I heard somewhere that being yourself is a successful rebellion. He said, how are you doing? I said, it's hard, but I'm fighting. And so now every time someone asks, what am I? Instead of taking an imaginary pistol and pointing it to my brain and shuffling through a bunch of different characters like a game of Russian roulette, ready to blow my brains out if I choose the wrong one, I asked them to repeat the question until they repeated the question to themselves enough times to realize we're all asking the same thing. Who am I? Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. Thank you. So today I want to talk to you on the subject of ridiculous, and the ridiculous idea, the ridiculous concept, the revolutionary idea that poetry can be used to lead you back to your authentic self. And so thinking about the reasons why I write and the reasons why I started writing, it was just that I needed to get back to my authentic and my original self. And authentic meaning my whole self, authentic meaning your real self, authentic meaning the self that is distinct from anyone and everyone else, where your inward representation of who you are matches the outward representation of who you are. And so with that being said, as I began to write, I didn't even realize that that's what I was trying to move towards, my authentic self. And writing just became a place for me where I could escape, a place for me where I could get away, a place for me where I could question and try to find answers. And And ultimately, it was a way that I could push back against a society that knowingly and unknowingly forces you to be like everyone else. It puts pressure on you to be like the next person. And we probably all felt that pressure when we open up a magazine, when we see the supermodels, when we turn on the television, when we flip through Instagram, when we look on Facebook. And so my writing was a pushback against that. And so the late poet, essayist, Ralph Waldo Emerson said that to be yourself in a world that is trying to make you like everyone else is life's greatest achievement. And the crazy thing, the most ridiculous thing about writing is that it forces you to be yourself. You first have to slow down. In a society where we're moving so fast, when everything is about instant gratification, slowing down is ridiculous, okay? All right? You laughing, and I'm serious. Slowing down is ridiculous. Number two, you have to turn around and you have to face your heart when you're writing. You have to deal with the things that are going on inside and that are turning on or turning on the inside within you in order to write in a real and authentic way. And a crazy thing happens when you do that. A crazy thing happens when you turn around and face your own heart. You begin to listen and you begin to hear your distinct voice. And as you begin to hear your distinct voice, you begin to accept yourself. And as you accept your own voice, another amazing thing happens. You begin to accept the voices of other people. You get to view other people's uniqueness as valuable. And that's definitely ridiculous in a society where we are currently killing people right now because of difference. And so with that being said, if you take it a step further and you actually begin to speak your truth, if you actually begin to communicate what it is that's going on inside of you, then you allow people the opportunity to see you for as you really are. And it's vulnerability that happens. I once had a mentor tell me that vulnerability is giving away a piece of yourself, and it's allowing that piece of yourself for someone to hold that could potentially hurt you or harm you. And so with that being said, the risk in vulnerability is that you might get hurt, you might get rejected, but the beauty of vulnerability is that in that, people are able to see you as you really are. If you want to take it a step further, take a group of people who don't look like each other, who don't vote like each other, who don't think like each other, who don't dress like each other, and put them in a community where they're able to write and they're committed to finding their authentic selves through this writing form, through this poetry. And I'll end with this story. I started a performance writers club at my university, and midway through the club, we play this game called Secrets, where everybody would write a secret on a piece of paper. And this secret couldn't be something crazy. This secret had to be legitimate. It couldn't be like, oh, well, I like hot dogs. It had to be like something vulnerable. And so people would write their secrets on a piece of paper. We would fold them up. We would put it in a hat, and we would mix the secrets around. Someone random around the room would draw someone else's secret, and we would begin to write on the secrets. After 10 minutes, we would ask people to read the secrets and then read what they wrote. And what was amazing about that experience that I will never forget is that as people begin to read secrets, you could see someone different being affected by the secret. And to this day, I'll never know who wrote, "I just want one hug" by my dad. I'll never know who wrote, "I was touched by my uncle when I was younger." I'll never know who wrote, "I don't know if I'll ever find love." But what I do know is that an amazing thing was happening. People were beginning to see themselves and each other as human. And that is ridiculous in a society where oftentimes we're divided because of our differences. And so with that being said, I would just encourage you to definitely use the art of poetry as a means to finding your authentic self. Thank you.